legs. We had a gentleman that was sleeping in his chair because he had heavier dentist legs, couldn't lift them into bed, so he just gave up on trying to go to bed. He'd sit in his chair. The edema just got worse and worse and worse until it affected his mobility, and they started to need to have more and more care input as well. They then decided, let's get a rise and recline for him. He couldn't raise his legs on a standard footstool because he didn't have the ability to do that, the functional ability. So a rise and recliner was given to him. He was able to raise his legs independently. Over a period of time, the fluid was able to drain because he had his heels above heart, and his mobility was improved as a result of that fluid draining. So it was a really, really big improvement for him. So these chairs are adjustable. So the name of the chair is Configura. This is the Configura Comfort. We have a range of chairs. The Configura Comfort is made to be configurable. So we go out there and we assess a client. Now, one of the challenges that you may have sometimes is you go and visit a client, you identify a need, and you need to get a chair for them. And the only way to meet their needs is to go for a customised option, bespoke option. Yeah, has anyone ordered customised bespoke chairs? No? Never done them? Okay. So lots of people will order a customised chair. The person needs a certain amount of pressure care, a certain amount of postural support, and a lift mechanism, and the right size chair. So it's made to measure. And the problem is that if it's made to measure, if you haven't quite measured it correctly, it's not going to meet the needs in the best possible way. Also, the risk is that if their needs change, that again, that chair is not going to be suitable anymore. And if there's a service, in where I'm from, what we do is we have services that rotate the equipment all the time. So it kind of gets given to one client to meet their needs. They no longer need it. It goes into stores, gets reissued to someone else. But when you're looking at bespoke chairs that are very, very expensive, made to measure, it's very unlikely that that chair is going to meet someone else's needs. So we want to try and avoid that because it just takes up space and it's very costly and it's high risk in terms of trying to get the right chair for the person. So the idea of this is that you assess your client, you get an idea of their measurements, of their pressure care needs, of their postural needs, and then you go and deliver the chair. And once it's delivered, you then go and review them and you readjust the chair as and how you need to. So within this chair, you can, like we said, you can adjust the size, you can adjust the pressure care, and you can adjust the postural support as well. So if you haven't quite met the needs first time, don't worry. Go in with a bit of confidence to know that you can probably adjust it to meet their needs, just with a few extra accessories or adjustments to it. 6 months down the line, their needs might have changed. They become weaker, they become more unwell. You can adjust the chair again, and that's what we're going to be really focusing on today. And I think when you think about people with neurological conditions, for example, motor neurone disease, that's one that I've worked with quite closely a few times. And my experience with people that have motor neurone disease is that they start with difficulty, and what they're really struggling with first of all is accepting the diagnosis, understandably. And they really struggle to accept intervention, so equipment and things is very difficult for them to understand that they need it. You go in, you see that they're really struggling with their standing transfer, they're very weak, they can't push themselves up. So a lift chair is going to be a good option for them. The problem is that a lift chair is not going to meet their needs for very long if it's a basic lift chair. Because as their condition deteriorates, they are suddenly going to lose weight, their skin integrity is going to be poor as a result, they're going to be much weaker, they're going to be at high risk of pressure injuries, they may well need different standing hoist equipment or a full hoist as well, or that further down the line. Basic lift chair won't be able to help them with those needs, but with this Configura, we can adjust it to meet those changing needs. Okay? When we're talking about this Configura and we're talking about authorization, do you have to request authorization? Do you have to provide clinical justifications, any of you? Yeah? Okay. So that's great, because actually when we think about this as an authorizer, if someone said to me, I've got a client, they're high risk of pressure sores, I'd like this chair. My response would be, if that's all their need is, take a chair, a high back armchair or their own chair, adjust the height of it to what's needed. If you can't do it to their own furniture, you get a height adjustable, a high back armchair, and you put a pressure cushion on top. That is their pressure care needs probably met if it's the right size chair. If they are struggling with their transfers and you've tried chair raisers and that's not meeting the needs, so you're thinking, okay, this person's struggling with their transfers, I want them to be independent, we'll go for a lift chair. If someone asked me for one of these, I'd probably say no, unless they've got an ongoing medical condition, a progressive condition, or at a certain age where I can see the likeliness is they're going to deteriorate and they're going to need more. I'd probably say to them, there's more cost-effective lift chairs out there. Please can you just go and buy one and recommend one of those, because we can meet your needs in a more cost-effective way. So when I'm looking at authorising these chairs, what I'm really looking for is meeting more than one need at a time, because it's slightly more expensive than a basic chair. And so we've always got to look at where we can meet needs in a cost-effective way. So it's about clinically justifying the needs. So for me, the person has to have been struggling with their standing transfers, they need to be struggling with some pressure care area, and or have some difficulties with posture management. So you're looking at what needs can be met within the chair. Okay, it's just something that I like to highlight as well, because it's, you know, we're all looking at being cost effective. So this is the cycle, and when we talk about being cost effective from a recycling point of view, if you're working in aged care, are you recycling the equipment within your services? Yeah, so you'll find this hopefully quite helpful, that this is being cost effective. It's actually, you've got one chair, yes it might be slightly more expensive than others, but actually this chair can just go again and again and again to meet the person's changing needs or a different person's needs. Size, pressure, posture is what we're going to be focusing on. So what makes this different to other chairs, other lift chairs? It has a lifting mechanism, yes. It is on casters. That is unusual for some rise and recliner chairs. The benefit of that is if they are under straight track gantry hoist or a straight track ceiling track hoist, you've got your bed, you've got your chair, but you've got your TV there. I could just turn them to the side and they can watch the TV. It is not a chair to be taking a person from room to room. It's not a transport chair. I definitely would not want to do that with someone in it. The casters are too small, got nowhere to hold, not ideal. You can put in your own pressure care cushions, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail, but this has a medium to high pressure relief foam cushion, pressure reducing foam cushion in there, built in. So it's already in there, you don't have to put something on top. If that's not quite meeting the need, you can take it out and put something else in, and that's the image, the second image there. And we'll talk about that in a bit more detail shortly. This image, anything that looks unusual there? Anybody? Have any of you used stand aids like this one? Some of you? No? Okay. Have any of you used any standing aids like Sarah Steadies or Rotor Stand, anything like that? Yeah? Okay. Have you used them? Yeah, have you good? Have you used them with a riser recliner chair? Okay. So a common challenge that we have is that when you've got this kind of piece of equipment and you've got a riser recliner, often what happens is you'll get to this point here, and basically the person is sitting in the chair. We don't ever want to be rising up this high at all to do the standing transfer, but basically you'll get to about there and you cannot get the equipment underneath, and that is because usually there is a bar that goes across the front there. You see where it's horseshoe? Normally it's closed up. Which means that my person is having to reach forward. Either you're kicking them out of the chair with the rise function, which we don't want to do because we want to encourage them to use their function, or they are having to really stretch forward, which often results in a second carer, one for the front of this to manage the standing, and the other one to bring the person forward to get them to hold on. And they still won't get any benefit of these shin pads because they're going to go up and they're going to be in that awkward, horrible position. Difference with this chair, I'm going to bring it back down again. I just brought it up so you can see. Can you see the horseshoe? There's no bar at the front. I'll just bring it down again into a more normal position. Okay, so we're going to bring it down. And what I can do is basically, even if it's a bit higher, I can bring this right underneath. Can you see now my shins are against it? Just brought it down a bit too much, but that's okay. So now I can bring my shins right against it. I'm not having to do that movement. I'm in this position and I can stand up really easily using it. So we've taken away that bar to enable us to use more equipment with the chair. So it's all about compatibility. And just talking about transfer aids and compatibility, that's one aspect of it. Now with this, we don't want people really to be tilted out of the chair. So what we can do is actually, this is now raising, as you'll see now, I'm going to rise the chair. So it's a lift chair. And as I'm rising up, what you might see, is I am not in the best position. I'm engaged. I have engaged my core muscles to keep me safe. We kind of otherwise feel like I'm being a bit pushed out of the chair. What I can do is I can just bring that backrest back. Can you see how my body's going back? I can relax. I don't have to hold myself in using my stomach muscles now. So it makes a big difference just moving the backrest back because I'm not being pushed out of the chair, okay? As I continue to rise, you can see that I'm able to get into a really nice position and my shoulders are staying behind my hips. I'm able to just push myself up. So this chair is a dual motor and you have the option to rise up at this angle, which is a 23-degree angle. But that's quite complicated for some people. They're not going to remember when to move the backrest and keep it out of the way, and it might be a bit too much for them to think about. So what we do have is the option to change the setting on the chair. So I'll just turn the chair a bit to show you that there are, on the back of here, there are 3 holes over here. You've got one, a second one, and a third one. This is 23 degrees, so you've got quite significant tilt. If you put it in the middle on there, you're going to be tilted at 14 degrees. And what that does is it basically mimics what I just showed you with the backrest back. It just the angle is not as significant, so I'm not being pushed out the chair in the same way. So there gives me my tilt, but not as much as this one does. Does anyone know what other tilt position could be helpful? Because that's where we'll move it into that position to get the other tilt. What other position would be helpful? Anyone ever used a vertical lift? A flat rise? So a flat rise is when the seat stays at that angle and we just raise it up and down. Could anyone think of any benefits of having it flat rise? Yeah? Okay. So I'm